I'm kind of ready.
Okay,
I'm
cool. Well,
kind of
let's do
ready.
it.
Yeah.
Right
Okay.
on. Willie, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice meeting you as well, Joe.
Absolutely. So let's start peeling back the layers. If you've got a very interesting life, I mean, as a writer, you've had all these incarnations prior to this, but I want to begin our conversation with something I'm sure we're all getting tired of, which is COVID. But how did you survive that pandemic period, and how did it change the way that you do things now?
That's an interesting something I actually haven't contemplated that much, but
Yeah.
um, I spent I spent I'm immune compromised. So I literally locked myself into the house. I did not go out, but I spent that whole time writing a memoir. And just dove in deep, and it didn't come out until people were until they told me it was safe to go out. So I was totally distracted the whole time. It worked out well for me.
Yeah. So let's get into what you do today and even what you've done in your career. And I'm going to do it by asking you this. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. And one of the curious kids says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Um, what do I do for a living? At the moment, I'm an author. And I write books. And if I didn't have investments, I wouldn't be making a living. It's not the most lucrative career to take. So most writers actually have a real job. But basically, what I do is, and I'm a writer of both fiction and nonfiction, and it's very different approaches. And right now, I'm sort of deep into nonfiction, which requires a lot of research and talking to people.
So, in other incarnations of your career, you've been a hospital administrator, government policy manager, insurance expert, and consultant. And my question to you is, how did all of those different professions, how have they helped you as a writer and conveying what you want to get through?
Well, I would say when I was a policy manager, that took an awful lot of that was basically it was a writing job. So I spent much of my time writing out policy papers, reports, briefing notes for government executives. It was just nonstop writing. And I would say that in that career, that period of my life lasted about 20 years. And by the end of it, I was a top-notch writer. So transitioning into um, writing books was not a big step. I found it kind of awkward because the first book I wrote was fiction, but actually much more comfortable writing nonfiction because it's much more consistent with what my career was. Well, I worked in the government. Some of the writing was fiction.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
So
right.
what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
In my dream in third grade, um, that's a great question. I remember when I was young, I used to tell everybody I wanted to be a burglar. I guess I was a smart ass from a very young age, but I there was a I I don't really think I had any sort of career aspirations at at that age. There was a point in my life where um I was thinking about a law career, and then I dated this woman, and her father um he was a hospital administrator, one of the largest hospitals in the city. And I'm going, well, I really could get on his good side if I if I got a degree in hospital administration, became a hospital administrator. Well, it didn't really work out. So if you're asking where did the hospital administration come from, that's where
Yeah,
it came from.
that's where it
Some
came
girl I
from.
dated.
That's it. And half of the ideas in the world come from, girls and all of that
Right,
kind of pursuit.
right. So she was really impressed, as you can see. She
Yes.
was gone. I'm struggling go through, grad school, and she's gone.
Wow. So let me ask you this: as a writer, what was the early book, first book that really captivated you, that made you love reading, or maybe made you think that you wanted to write someday?
The whole genesis of writing was weird. When I was young, I was an avid reader. I just read everything. I read autobiographies. I read history books. I read science fiction. I just consumed everything. The reading sort of started cutting back during my work career because I was working too much. Um, and so, and as time went on, I started drifting back. But I would say that a lot of things in my career have actually influenced my writing. Various um, various authors and events in my life, and so they kind of show up in my books.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about heroes, inspirations. Who has that been for you?
Heroes. I mean,
Yeah.
real life heroes,
Real life
not the
heroes.
fiction.
Yeah.
I worked for somebody in my career who I didn't have a lot of role models in my life, but and if you read my memoir, you'll see why. Uh, but there was this one person I worked for, and he was incredible. And he was a mentor for me, and I learned a lot from him, and he was a hero to me. And unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 49 from Hodgkin's.
Wow.
Very tragic.
Yeah. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, whether a writer or otherwise, and spend some time with them, who would it be?
I would love to sit down and just talk with Stephen King.
Yeah.
That man, he did. No one on the planet knows more about writing than he does.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually just went on a vacation a few weeks ago to Estes Park and went to the the basis for the Lookout in The Shining and saw a, magic show in the basement of it. It was quite enchanting. And I just kept thinking about how he came up with the story and everything that was in it. I ended up listening to the audiobook when I came back, and he is so intricate and detail oriented and weaves you into that world so well.
And he's surprisingly so active, like on social media as well.
Yes.
Very accessible. It's an
Yeah.
amazing guy.
Yeah, he totally is. So, what is it that motivates you every day to wake up and to do the work that you do, to write the stories and to be who you are and to evolve as you are as a person? What is that for you?
I well known for being a very driven person. So motivation, I get up and I I pull out my list of things that I want to get done today, and I just go for it. But the writing part, I actually went through a year of writer's block. I just couldn't write. I ended up going to therapy to try and work it out. But normally, I wake up in the mornings and I have all these fresh ideas, and I can't wait to get to the computer. As well, the work that I'm doing now um, is, I mean, Tell is very important work, and there's a lot of people anticipating the work, and that kind of drives you as well.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Best advice. Um, what my best advice is, probably, I would say, Willie, slow down. That's probably it. And I never listen.
Right, I get it. Me too. Same boat.
No, there are people who, I would say, the best advice I think the most important advice I ever get is self-care. That there are times where you have to just look after yourself and just walk away and forget about everything. And that's a critical part in staying sane,
Yes.
really. So it's not anything sort of earth-shattering. It's just sometimes the most basic thing is the best advice you can get.
So if you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, the wisdom you've gained along the way, what advice would you give? And would that 18-year-old version of you listen?
Um, the I would say I probably I'll tell you what I know exactly what it is now as I think about it is that I went through my childhood and adulthood not really not asking my parents very many questions because the questions I would ask about their experience early in their life were too painful. And then when I went about to write the memoir and talk about their experiences, they're no longer around. And man, I really, really regret that. It was a very difficult process to get around that and really tell their story.
So of everything that you've done and achieved and evolved into at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Um, the memoir I wrote is um, clearly was a major achievement because it was so damn hard to write.
Yeah.
It put me in therapy. It was extremely difficult. And when it comes out it's out on November 9th, and people are already starting to read it because I have some advanced, and they're like shattered. They're
Yeah.
floored by it,
Wow.
and it's a very powerful piece of work.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, all of your readers, everybody that knows you, but ultimately you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm a very easygoing, funny guy with a very serious side to him as well. And and I think for a lot of people there's a lot of appeal there because I can go either way. And so, most of the time very lighthearted, but let me tell you, there are times when I'm deadly serious.
So if we get off this call and a time machine pulls up in front of your house and you could go back in the history of time and see one event with your own eyes, where are you going?
What would I love to see? I would. Are we talking about any period before I was born
Yeah,
even?
absolutely. Anywhere, anytime.
Oh. Um, I would hmm. I would probably want I'd love to that's an interesting question. You know what? I would love to have been on the I would love to have been on the moon landing.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's one of the sort of big events of my life, but I'm sure there are other things um and I wish I knew what they were. But it's a great question.
Yeah,
I'll be back to you next week with an
I
answer.
love it.
Better answer.
I absolutely love it. So, Willie, if anyone wants to pick up the memoir, any of your other work, reach out, learn more about you, where do they go?
I would recommend going to Amazon, and when you search for Willie Handler, you'll find my fiction and nonfiction book, um, and I don't think anybody will be disappointed.
I have no doubt. This has been wonderful. Willie, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with the release of the memoir.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Take care.